Thank you for coming out, friends, family, supporters in District 29 and beyond. For too long now, it's been very clear that the city is either too intrusive or too neglectful in upholding its basic responsibilities, be that in education, transportation, sanitation, hospital closures. Many things simply aren't right. What got me involved was when the statue, the Triumph of Civic Virtue, stood here, and after years of neglect, decades, not anything done, community board, the community attempting to appeal to the city in order to have restoration and care done. What does the city do? In a matter of a few months, it whisks it away to the Greenwood Cemetery. How fitting an image of everything that's gone on in the last few months. A symbol of open and honest government torn away, while meanwhile we have city council people being indicted for misuse of campaign funds, assemblymen indicted for the same thing. Just the other day, I don't know if you heard, but a certain mayoral candidate had 2 of his staff members convicted of federal charges for improper use of campaign finance. And so what I am here to do is to run as an independent candidate. I simply do not believe that the major parties are fielding enough candidates that are really supporting the needs and wants of the residents. I feel that in education, we need to be supporting teachers and parents, curriculum and instruction, not this overuse of testing, which has been destroying education through insane accountability and destructive school closures. As regards transportation, Queens is heavily reliant on buses, but yet you will see 2 or 3 pile up at one time, with residents waiting in the frigid cold and the sweltering heat for a ride. We need more buses, we need better platooning, and we need to talk about shuttle lines to get people from way out in the borough out to the subways. Queens is made on the backs of hard-working residents, not wealthy campaign contributors, which is why for too long it has not had the representation in City Hall that it deserves. We need fair landmarking status. Right now, Queens is woefully underrepresented by the Landmarks Preservation Commission, while we have a beautiful neighborhood right here, Kew Gardens. This should have been landmarked. In addition, what do we not need? We do not need large subsidies going to developers with political connections to build, destroy property values, such as is happening right next to my co-op, I might add. In addition to Willets Point, the theft of public parklands, I might mention, all throughout Flushing Meadows Corona Park. Public parkland is sacred. There are fewer park rangers now than there have ever been per capita in Queens. A tiny fraction of what there are in Manhattan. Queens residents are not second rate. And I am here to send a message as the independent Civic Virtue candidate that open and honest government and fair representation and fair spending on Queens is to be a #1 priority for this city. We have 27% of the city's population, and it's about time that that becomes acknowledged. It turns out that a developer can actually self-certify his or her own building. The person who erects a building in this city, and the Department of Buildings actually provides the template for it, can be the one to take care of compliance issues. In case you haven't heard, New York City is not Bangladesh. We are not going to have another ill-fabricated building collapse in this country, in this city, killing 300 people. It is a disgrace that the Department of Buildings has allowed this to go on, and I will support any legislation, introduce legislation, if I do not see it from other council members, to in fact end this practice that is riddled with conflict of interest.
What is your opinion on the Queensway rail line issue?
The Queensway rail line issue, for those of you who do not know, is there's an abandoned rail line that stretches from South Ozone Park to Rego Park. It's sat abandoned for a long time. There have been ideas that maybe we should in fact turn it into parkland. There have been ideas thrown around that we should reactivate it as a rail line. It seems to be that reactivating it as a rail line is not popular. There are some residents who do not like the park idea either, because it in fact increases traffic down in Woodhaven, so they have voiced concerns to the community board too. I will say this. These issues are not anything that a council person should be weighing in on without the input from the community. If in fact the majority wants to leave the rail line alone, we should leave it alone. If the majority wants a park, we should consider a park. Now, what about those few who don't? So I talked about this. I feel that the city should have what's called a tweeting tort, a financial liability, such that when any land is rezoned, that all property owners receive a financial compensation for their loss of property value. For too long, developers and the city have been exploiting residents who build communities by coming in and mutilating them. That is simply unacceptable. So it's an ongoing question, but underlying theory is that we need to be taking input from the community and compensating them, those few for whom, unfortunately, we cannot satisfy.
But you haven't taken the side on it.
I have been looking. The study's been commissioned. About $500,000 been put aside for it. If that study hasn't been finished, I don't think I have any business weighing in on it myself, one way or another. Question.
What do you think about this stop and frisk issue?
So as I mentioned, stop and frisk, for those of you who don't know, has increased by 600 to 700% since Mayor Bloomberg took office. Now, my opinion on stop and frisk goes to my opinion on police work in general, firefighting in general, education in general. We need to be putting clear guidelines in place as to what is legal and trusting in the expertise of our union civil service personnel to perform it correctly. 700% is outrageous, absolutely outrageous that the numbers should be that high. Crime had already come down by 2001, 2002 when this ramp-up took place. Bloomberg has not seen a precipitous fall in crime by increasing stop and frisk. Now, does that mean that if suspicious behavior is going on that we can document, that the police shouldn't be able to act on it? Of course it doesn't. Public safety is a basic right. But as I also mentioned, the police force has dropped 5,000 officers since 2000, while the population of the city has risen up to 8.2 million, which is higher than it's been in the 2 decades since we had that peak. So what is the mayor trying to do, and what is the city council letting him do? Basically, to harass the citizens by saving a few pennies on hiring real officers and seriously addressing public safety. So it really gets down to one of these issues that's pitting people. Do you like stop and frisk? Do you not like stop and frisk? There's a major fact here that we are lacking officers on the streets. Once we beef up the police force to what it should be, and we in fact start to mend community relations, we use informants, we have anonymous tip cards, we start improving community policing, you won't have this insane need for stop and frisk. That's my belief. Good question. So my grandmother here, at the young age of 1992 this year, would like to speak to my honesty. Let me just make something very clear. I have never held public office. I never intended to get involved in politics. I have a nice job. I don't need to serve the community. I want to serve the community. And whether or not I am successful in this election, City Hall will hear from Jon Torodash in one way or another. I can guarantee that. So the mayoral race is hotly contested. I will state 2 things. I don't care whom you vote for as long as it's not Christine Quinn. I bear a particular animus against Christine Quinn on a number of counts. The overturning of term limits, the use of slush funds, the closing down of hospitals, the bullying of other council members through discretionary fund withholding. Quinn is inimical to everything that I stand for. I will, however, also give my endorsement publicly, which I have given on my website, which is to Kevin P. Conan Jr., a firefighter, whom I guess none of you have ever even heard of, because the mainstream media has been keeping him out of the running, out of the public eye. Kevin Conan Jr. is a retired lieutenant firefighter, has never held office, and in fact stands for the same open and honest government, supporting of the municipal workers, a better support for Queens in general, and the city at large. And so I would highly recommend you look up Kevin Conan Jr. Definitely. But most importantly, whoever gets into office, I look forward to working with them in whatever capacity possible to give Queens the representation it really needs. I want to see the community board not just when some developer is drumming up support for some new project. I want to see residents testifying, learning about the issues in their district. I'm finding that too few people know what's going on. So underlying all issues ultimately is in fact more civic engagement. That's why I think Civic Virtue is just such a wonderful emblem of these ideas. We need active, engaged citizenry to start tackling the major problems. And I do not pretend that I can do this on my own. While I support independent candidates, whoever makes it into office in November, I look forward to working with them in order to bring greater understanding and really start solving the problems that Queens residents need. So I look forward to having your help and the help of perhaps future colleagues down in City Hall.